Farmers Branch study session meeting is Tuesday, October 25th, 2022. We will begin with A1, discuss regular agenda items. Councilmember Merritt.
I don't have anything on this discussion except for I think we'll have some group discussion on H9 for boards and commissions, but I'll wait for that opportunity.
Yeah, we'll go around the table first and then
Sure.
come back to that.
No other issues.
Councilmember Jackson.
Same here.
Councilmember Driscoll.
Yes, I had a question on H7, and since we have the fire department fully represented, I just was, I'd like a little clarification, the exact difference between the AEDs and the life packs. And I think that'd be good for, the citizens to understand the difference between those.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we have our EMS captain here and our operations chief and assistant chief here, and assistant chief of administrative services, Daniel Lammer, our fire chief. And so at 80, that's our automatic defibrillators, and so that's what you see around in your buildings when you're out in the public, right? So your little handheld, they're quick to deploy. Their whole thing is to detect if there's a pulseless rhythm. We apply those. If there is, it tells us to shock, and it's to get the heart back pumping really fast, okay? So that's gonna be more of our citizens or residents who's out in the public, that are gonna be using those. A life pack, that's what you see when you have your paramedics walk in the house or business and they're carrying that big box. That does way more. That's taking pictures of our car. It's a 12-lead EKG. It does multiple things there. So that's the difference. The life pack is for us as the fire department that we use in our ambulances and fire apparatus. And AED is what you see during the rec centers, our buildings here, which you see Walmart. Yeah, that make sense?
Yes, and with the 29 new ones of the defibrillators that we're buying, are we going to be adding those to some other installations? I know they're rec
Yes,
center
sir.
and library, but are we going to be extending that reach with those?
Yes, sir. So just as always, trying to unify and bring that one team aspect. So the fire, we go out and we do them twice a year. We go out and inspect our AEDs that are here, that are part of the cities. And so we realized as a team that there's all kinds of different AEDs out there. We're past the date of being replaced. And so that's one of the things we took on as a group to go, okay, let's look at PD, let's at parks, look at our city buildings everywhere. And let's go take an assessment of that. And then we realized we need to update the whole fleet. They're all behind. And that's just a huge liability, obviously, we have out at parks and they're not working. So now we'll have that. It comes with a 1-year warranty. Stryker will perform that. We have them as our vendor that does all our other medical equipment on agreements. That's perfect. And then after that year, then our fire will go back out there and start doing the maintenance program as well.
Just a thought, is there any possibility to have on the website where those are located, particularly the ones, like you mentioned in the park, that are, the public could come across in an emergency?
Yes, and there is a platform that has that. That's something that we'll be looking into. They have Pulse Point and different avenues there. We were able to get all that involved at the time since we were running so fit in fire administration last year plus. But now that we're fully staffed, that's something that we've challenged our EMS captain to look at initiatives looking into the future as we get the other things going. It's something we can definitely look into.
Okay, I think that would be great, because, if we save one life a year, that's a great investment, and I certainly doubt that a lot of my friends know that, they are available or will be available in the parks.
Yeah, that's a great thing. That's one of those things that through the fire department too, with Wendy Kippen, she does an amazing job. And we follow us on social media. We get out there, we try to communicate to our public every day almost. And that's something that we can also do, is have a map there to display that to our citizens. There's no problem with that at all.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Is that it?
I'm good.
Okay. Councilmember Williams.
Okay.
Councilmember Roman.
I'm okay.
All right. Well, then let's jump into the discussion on H9. So the appointments to P&Z, Historical Preservation Restoration Board, Parks and Rec, and the Senior Advisory Board. We'll just go down the list, and some of these are just kind of going to be administrative cleanup unless we're appointing. So on P&Z, we just need to appoint an applicant to alternate position 2. I know you guys had some discussion last council meeting about that, so I guess we'll just pick the ball back up where you all left off. Councilmember Merritt.
I know that the two applicants we have, Mr. Mike McGinnis and Mr. Michael Rogan, both are equally capable of the role. So I'm could go either way. I've had conversations with both individuals. I was leaning to Mr. McGinnis last period, and the reason why is I have appointed Mr. Rogan to the redistricting program, so I was trying to expand participation across the city. So that's the reason for that particular choice, but I could be supportive of either one going forward, and I'll still stick with Mr. McGinnis in that role for this particular time, for the reason I stated.
Okay. Councilmember Jackson.
I'm in support of appointing Mike Rogan to P and Z. He's a 60-year resident of Farmers Branch, so he's got decades of community engagement and service. As Councilman Merritt mentioned, he's most recently served on the Redistricting Commission. We've all seen those videos. Inarguably, Mr. Rogan provides a very sound thinking, impartial element to our commissions. In fact, I had a resident email me, and one of their comments was, Mr. Rogan has remarkable impartiality. He's also served on our zoning board of adjustments for 6 years, the last 2 of those as chair. And so he's already very intimately familiar with our zoning code and with cases and situations. So I believe that he can bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to our P&Z commission and process. I just also believe that given Mr. Rogan's history with our city and his service to our city, to not honor his request, his primary request to be put on P&Z, just wouldn't be good. I think it'd be good to, to honor that request for him. I did receive 13 emails from 13 different residents opposing Mr. McGinnis's appointments. And I'm not going to read the details that were given to me in these emails. They're a matter of public record if someone wants to make those requests. But in short, as I understand it, Mr. McGinnis is involved in a lawsuit, a property-related lawsuit in his neighborhood. And these residents have called into question appointing Mr. McGinnis to a property-related commission in our city, given his involvement in this lawsuit. So I do have concerns with that, and again, I'm not going to go into any more detail than that, but suffice it to say, I support Mr. Rogan to the P&Z.
Councilmember Driscoll.
Yes, well, my position has not changed from what it was a couple of weeks ago. I fully support Mike McGinnis to be appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I would also just like to state the obvious, but the public doesn't know that perhaps, but this appointment is for an alternate position, and I think on average, we've probably had at least 2 vacancies for one reason or another on P&Z each of the last several years. And so I think there's probably opportunity for both of these gentlemen to serve on the P&Z in the near future. And as I stated last time, I think Mike McGinnis is highly qualified for this position. I know he had academic interest in this field, and he was committed, of course, to the Air Force because he went to the academy. But I know that he had thought about urban planning and city planning as a career path back at that time. And I think he is more than qualified to serve. And also, to your point, Councilman Jackson, about 60-year resident, I think that's wonderful. And I know Mr. Rogan, he's served on the ZBA and on the redistricting. But as we've always discussed on council here, we want to bring new people in and newer residents to the city. And the chairwoman of the P&Z, I think she's lived here maybe less than 2 or 3 years, but she's getting her doctorate in urban planning and all those fields. And so I don't think just length of residency, should be the determining factor. And I don't know exactly, but I know Mr. McGinnis has lived here for over 20 years. So that's my position.
Councilmember Williams.
I think both candidates are qualified and would be great additions. I like Mr. McGinnis's background in urban planning, especially as we're moving forward with our comprehensive plan. Relooking at how we plan our cities, how we look at urban sprawl and suburban sprawl, and having some newer, fresher ideas on how to address those kinds of issues. That's attractive to me. But with Mr. Rogan, he has a lot of history and is well qualified, so I'd be fine with either appointment.
Councilmember Roman.
Thank you, Mayor. So I actually had an opportunity to chat with both of them, and I think either one would be good for the position. It seems like, we have one resident who's been here for quite some time, has contributed very heavily to the community. And I agree that I think to some extent we have to honor a resident's request to serve on a committee when they've contributed so heavily. And I also understand that Mr. McGinnis, he mentioned to me that he did have some interest when he was in school in the Air Force Academy. He took a class on urban planning as one of his elective courses and wrote a research paper on it. And he's very good at reading maps. And I think there's some benefit to that experience. But after looking at it and kind of just comparing the experience that both people have, I think Mr. Rogan has a far more experience, and I think maybe Mr. McGinnis might be able to participate in some of the other committees that we have available, since we have a few openings. But I think for this position in particular, I think Mr. Rogan would be my pick.
Mr. Merritt, any new thoughts?
I did have an opportunity to talk to Mr. Rogan about potentially serving on another. We do have 3 other vacancies, and he said that he would be willing to do so. He could speak for himself, but I don't know if others have had that conversation, but I was trying to balance that conversation off. So that's the one augmentation that I have in the discussion, that we have 3 other slots to fill, and based on trying to fill wishes and desires, we're gonna come up short with the names that we have on the eligible applicant list. So that may be an opportunity to honor, if you will, a request and achieve some of our objectives.
His secondary interest was in the historical board, correct?
That's correct.
And with that kind of 60-year resident, that may be a
As well as the
really
senior
good fit.
advisory board. So both of those are
Both of
on the
those
list,
are-
and both of those have vacancies. So
That sounds
the
like,
opportunity.
that sounds like a good opportunity there, too.
Councilmember Jackson.
I know that Mr. Rogan would serve in any capacity. That's just who he is, what little I have gotten to know him. But again, I will say that I have over a dozen residents that have given me concerns about appointing someone that's in the midst of a lawsuit in our city regarding property to a property-related commission.
I think without us having all of that information, that could be a little skewing. So unless you can divulge all of the information about that,
I mean, it's a lawsuit that's in process, so there's been no decision. I'm happy to give you the copies of the emails that I got. They're on the city server, so they're a matter of public record. But it goes beyond that, and I really don't want to get into some of what I've been told. And again, it's public record, but I don't want to get into that dirt here, to put it lightly.
It's the Valley View Park Estates, HOA.
okay,
That's all, that says it all.
that's it. Okay.
Councilmember Driscoll.
Yes, I don't know much about the HOA, but as I understand it, I think there's 80-some-odd homes there, and so everyone that lives there, I think, has to be in the HOA. So I think probably, I don't know, I would think most all of the residents are on one side or another in one of, I don't know how many lawsuits are going on in that HOA. And that's just things I've heard. But be that as it may, I don't think that should have any bearing. And I think, again, on previous councils and ever since I've been on council, we have always sought as a group to find the best candidate for each board or commission. And there are often times where there's someone who's really passionate, you know, about the animal shelter or about parks or whatever. And I mentioned, you know, Amber Rayleigh, the chairwoman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. You know, she's a relatively new resident here, but, I mean, she's teaching classes on all these subjects, so she was the ideal person when we discovered her. And so I've always felt, you know, we don't need to balance things by having someone on every board from every district, but finding the best candidate. And so I feel that Mike McGinnis would be the best candidate for P&Z. And in the video interviews, I watched for all of the candidates. Mr. Rogan did also indicate that he was interested in the Historical Park Board as well. And I think he's shown he's been very flexible and served on different committees and things. So that's where I am.
Councilmember Williams.
I mean, that, him being involved in that lawsuit, that, I don't think that that should be part of this discussion. If it's not in full discussion, then it shouldn't be part of this discussion. So, that being said, Mr. McGinnis has shown his interest. He is interested in urban planning. I think that that's vital as we're going through. And Mr. Rogan has expressed his interest in being willing to serve in other capacities so we can fill really, I mean, we've got 3 spaces available. He could be a great asset to either one of the other options that we have. So I think this is an easy way for us to try to keep all residents involved, so.
Has anybody asked Mr. McGinnis if he was open to any, I didn't ask him if he was open to any other committees.
Bellwood Improvement Authority was the other one on his list.
Yeah, my opinion hasn't changed.
Come back to that one. All right. Historical Preservation and Restoration Board. So we'll be moving Ann Chrisman from alternate number 1 to place 2. And then looking for appointment for the 2 alternate positions. That's correct. And this is the entire list of eligible applicants?
Yeah.
Councilman Roman, what are your thoughts given this board and filling 2 vacancies? with
So,
No one is a primary on this one.
so from my understanding, we reached out to these 3 individuals and they've indicated no interest in serving any other board.
That is correct.
What happens if they stay open?
They can stay open. We just need to fill them sooner rather than later. So I think let's take it upon ourselves to reach out to some people and come back at a future council meeting to plug some people in. I don't think it's worth shuffling and just coming up with people off the top of our heads right now. I think let's have some of those discussions and hopefully come up with some candidates that are willing to serve, and then we'll connect them with Stacy and get them in the system so that we can properly take action. But I still think tonight that we should still move Ann Chrisman from alternate 1 to place 2 so that she can be a full voting member and give that board the votes that they need.
Yeah.
Without question.
Parks and Rec, promoting Barba Leedy to place 2 from alternate 1, and David Reed from alternate 2 to alternate 1, thereby leaving 1 applicant to fill. And so on this, we also don't have anyone looking for the Parks and Rec Board. The good news is we'd be fully up, have 1 alternate and 1 spot to fill. So again, I think come back and let's find a option for that. And then the last one. Is that the last one? Hold on. No, yeah, senior board, yep. So, has one vacancy for alternate one, so we'll promote Tina to alternate one from alternate two and consider an alternate two position. The only person on the list which has been discussed is Michael Rogan would be willing to serve in that capacity, which would bring them up to full strength, as well as provide the option that some said is McGinnis and P and Z fills that one as well. And so, from what I've heard, it seems there's leaning 3-2 on McGinnis for P and Z, which would then thereby allow us to put Michael Rogan on the Historical Park Board, given that he has indicated to two different people that he would be willing to serve in that capacity, and that was his second preference. Does anyone have a problem with those recommendations downstairs? And if so, if you feel that that might alter your voting, right here, I would recommend that we remove H9, not from consent, but take them separately.
It's going to have to come off consent anyway,
Okay,
because you don't have all those bodies listed in.
gotcha, okay. Well, then,
My
that solves that.
position's unchanged, Mayor.
Okay. Well, and consent is now H1 to H8, and then we will handle H9 independently as a regular item. So, all right. With that, we will jump to discuss future agenda items. A2, Councilmember Roman,
No future agenda items, thank you.
Councilmember Williams,
Nothing at this time.
Councilmember Driscoll,
I'm good today, thank you.
Councilmember Jackson,
Nothing new, Mayor.
Councilmember Merritt.
I am good today.
All right, well then we're going to go ahead and read in executive session B1. Council may convene into a closed executive session pursuant to section 551.074, personnel deliberation of the Texas Government Code, to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, and duties of the interim city manager. Council may convene into a closed executive session pursuant to section 551.074, personnel deliberation of the Texas Government Code, to discuss the appointment and employment of the city manager. Council may convene into a closed executive session pursuant to section 551.071 to consultation with city attorney and section 551.074 personnel matters of the Texas Government Code to discuss and hear a citizen charge under city charter sections 2.02 and 2.19 for removal of Councilmember Tracy Williams for failure to continuously reside in her district. We will recess and reconvene in 5 to 10 minutes. The time is 3:22 p.m. Thank you.